So you'll purposely be late for a meeting just to get back at somebody. If you are chronically late to something, let me ask you, you really need to look at yourself and examine, am I doing this just because I'm running late? Or am I doing this because I'm bitter about somebody who's on the board in this meeting? Or I'm bitter at my boss or something. I'm bitter at my work. I feel like I'm not getting a fair shake at my work. And so you're getting back, and you may not always realize it, but it's up to us to identify those things, right? And to say, okay, that's something that I may need to change. You know what I've even noticed? People who are passively aggressive with their pastor will be late to church. Amen? Passive-aggressive leaders within the church will be late to meetings. It's a way for them to express their dissatisfaction with something, but not directly. Because passive-aggressive people don't deal with problems directly. They only deal with problems indirectly. So they're going to be late because they don't like something else that's going on. Chronic forgetting shows a blatant disrespect and disregard for others to punish them in some way or the other. They'll forget this or they'll forget that, they'll forget the other thing. Certainly not all things point to passive-aggressive just because you forgot something or just because you have a problem with short-term memory or something like that. But you really need to examine yourself if you're chronically forgetting things that have to do with the same thing, like work or something else. Say, is that me targeting somebody to get them back somehow? Impulsive, often reacting negatively to an ambiguous, benign, or even positive statement. They will often receive any statement as a personal attack, even a positive statement. They'll take that and twist it as you said something negative against them. And they're impulsive in their reaction. Remember, passive-aggressive people are very, very impulsive people. Okay? They will do things on a whim. They'll send an email without thinking about it. They'll send a text without thinking about it. Let me tell you, with technology today, it is easier than ever to be passively aggressive. Right? Have you ever taken out your frustration with somebody indirectly on Facebook? I've seen some posts out there and I thought, boy, that's a passive-aggressive approach. Okay? Instead of dealing with that person directly. Facebook is a great place for passive-aggressive people because they can get all of their frustrations out, but they don't have to do it directly. Okay? Even email blasts and all of these things. Technology is making it very easy for us to be passive-aggressive. Making excuses. Always coming up with reasons for not doing things or not changing behavior. Well, I couldn't, or this happened, or that happened, or I didn't get a fair shake, or this or the other thing. Victimization. An unwillingness to look at their own part in a situation and will turn the tables to become the victim and will behave like one. Okay? So they are always the victim. No matter what happens, they will make themselves the victim. Passive-aggressive people love to be the victim. Okay? Blaming. Will blame others for situations rather than being able to take personal responsibility for actions or to take an objective view of a situation. When you're passively aggressive, you cannot look at things objectively. It's impossible for you to deal with things in an objective manner. Withholding. Many times they will withhold things from others, such as intimacy. Okay? You understand that, adults who are married? Okay? Intimacy, work, or favors to reinforce an already unclear message to those that they are frustrated with. So I'm frustrated with my husband, that's it. I'm not going to do any favors for him. I'm not going to make his coffee. I'm not going to make his lunch anymore. I'll forget to make his lunch. Okay? Because I'm not going to deal with my problem with my husband directly, but I'll deal with it in an indirect manner. So we withhold things from people. And also, learned helplessness. Continually acting like they can't help themselves. Deliberately doing a poor job of something for which they are explicitly responsible. This is sabotage. They sabotage their own work because they are so upset with somebody or something or a situation, and they won't deal with it directly. They won't sit down with that person and say, hey, can I talk to you about this? This really hurt me when you did this. Okay? And it may just be a big misunderstanding. But they won't deal with it that way. So what they'll do is they'll sabotage their own work to get back at somebody. They'll do a poor job at a responsibility that is really supposed to be theirs and explicitly supposed to be theirs. Okay? So that they can affect other people. Maybe cause more work for them. Okay? Or maybe hurt them in some way. Or maybe cause them to be frustrated. And in the back of their mind they're saying, yes, they're frustrated too. And that's exactly what I want. Okay? Let's go have lunch. Okay? Because that's how passively aggressive people think in their mind. What is at the heart of passive-aggressive personality disorder? We can put a nice, clean, clinical title on it. We can hand out drugs to deal with things, okay? And we can put you into psychology counseling all the livelong day. But ultimately, what is at the heart of it all? Okay? Our own sin. Isn't it? It is our own sin. Let me point some things out to you in this dealing with sin. There are three types of sin. I want you to turn to 1 John chapter 3. 1 John chapter 3. Is everybody doing okay this morning? Okay. Does everybody understand what passive aggressiveness is? All right. 1 John chapter 3. I want you to look with me at verses 1 through 4. Okay? There are ultimately three types of sin. Let me show you what they are. Because I'm going to show you that passive aggressiveness is a threefold offense to God. You ready? Yes. Look at what it says in 1 John chapter 3 and verse number 4. It says, behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth us not, because it knew him not. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it does not yet appear what we shall be. But we shall know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. There's biblical evidence for our glorified bodies, by the way. Look at verse number 2. Beloved, now we are the sons, verse number 3. And every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself, even as he is pure. But look at verse number 4. It describes for us the first type of sin. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law. So I want you to write this down as the first type of sin. Number 1. The transgression of the law is sin. You ready? Okay? Let's look at number 2. Look at James chapter 4 to find number 2 in this. James chapter 4, and I want you to look at verse number 14. It says in James chapter 4 and verse number 14, and we're looking at the second type of sin this morning. Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time, and then vanisheth away. For that ye ought to say, if the Lord will, we shall live and do this or that. But now ye rejoice in your boastings. All such rejoicing is evil. Verse number 17, where we hone in on this. Therefore to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Number 2, you have the transgression of the law is sin. Are you with me this morning?
Yes, amen.
Okay? You have number 2, you have those who know to do good, but don't do it. That's also sin. Amen? Okay? It may not be mentioned in the law, it may not directly be mentioned in the Bible, but if you know that it's good to do it and you don't do it, it's sin.
Amen.
Right? Okay, now look at Romans chapter 14. Romans chapter 14, we see number 3 in the types of sin we're looking at here this morning. Romans chapter 14, and I want you to look at verse number 22. Hast thou faith? Have it to thyself before God. Happy is he that condemneth not himself in that thing which he alloweth. Look at verse number 23. For he that doubteth is damned, if he eat, because he eateth not of faith. For whatsoever is not of faith, what?
Sin.
What is sin? What is it? It's sin. So you have the 3 types of sin here this morning, okay? 3 categories of sin, if you will. Sin is, number 1, the transgression of the law. When you transgress the things that the law tells you to do, that the law of God has commanded us as Christians to do, that is sin to us. Amen? The law, by the way, goes beyond the 10 Commandments. I can show you that in the Bible. We don't have time for that this morning. But the second thing is, if you're sitting around and you know it's good to do something and you refuse to do it, okay, that's also sin to you, even if the law does never mention it. And also those things that are not of faith. All of those things that you are taking care of in your life. All of those things where you are not relying on God